Good evening, everyone. Ford is getting out of part of the car business, the rental car business. Late today, the automaker announced it was selling its Hertz rental car division for $15 billion, including debt. Ford will sell all shares of common stock of Hertz to a private equity group that includes Clayton, Dubilier and Rice and the Carlyle Group. The move gives Ford a big infusion of cash, which could help the struggling automaker deal with falling sales and rising health care costs. The company says this strengthens its balance sheet with an emphasis on its core automotive business.
Other deal making in the news today, 3 mergers with a combined value of almost $14 billion. The biggest of the bunch, Oracle is buying Siebel Systems for about $5.9 billion. The deal bolsters Oracle's drive to become the world's largest maker of business application software. Oracle's been on a buying spree, taking over 5 smaller companies in the past 9 months. eBay is buying internet startup Skype for up to $4.1 billion in cash and stock. Skype leads the booming voice-over internet protocol market. eBay hopes offering free Skype web phone calls within its system will help better link its 150 million buyers and sellers. And Wachovia Corporation is making an acquisition as well. It's buying financial services company Westcorp and Westcorp subsidiary WFS Financial for nearly $4 billion in stock. The deal gives Wachovia, the nation's 4th largest bank, a stake in the high-yielding auto lending business, and it gets it into the banking market in California.
A bumper crop of corn led to bedlam in the marketplace today. Grain prices fell sharply at the Chicago Board of Trade after the government predicted a better-than-expected harvest. That bountiful harvest is good news to farmers. But, as Diane Estabrook reports, harvesting is one thing, moving it is another.
What was supposed to be a quiet morning in Chicago's grain trading pits turned out to be utter chaos. A selling frenzy was prompted by an unexpectedly bearish report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The USDA predicted American farmers will harvest more than 10.5 billion bushels of corn this fall, far more than traders expected. Farmers are also expected to harvest a bumper crop of soybeans. But many traders don't think farmers will actually produce that much.
Their measuring techniques change month to month, and there might be a mistake either in August or September. Right now, the market has to assume that they're right in September, and we've knocked the prices down significantly today.
Grain traders have been nervous about prices recently because of transportation disruptions caused by Hurricane Katrina. Barges in the Mississippi River have been stalled because the port of New Orleans is closed and the barges can't make deliveries there. Many of those barges are needed to pick up grain that will be harvested in a couple of weeks. A prolonged delay could force down grain prices even more and prompt farmers to store crops rather than sell them. But the impact of Katrina is already affecting farmers in other countries. The threat of lower crop prices coupled with soaring energy costs have many South American producers wondering whether they should start planting their crops now.
Our liaison officer there reported to us here just last week that there were a significant number of farms, fazendas, that were available now to be sold, many more than we saw just a month ago, because all of a sudden this rapid increase in energy coupled with the falling grain price right at the time that they're making their decision to go to the field.
At this point, traders say Katrina isn't having an overwhelming impact on grain prices, but they admit that could change if today's production estimates are accurate and if barge traffic on the Mississippi River remains tied up for more than a month. Diane Estabrook, Nightly Business Report, Chicago.
One other post-Katrina note tonight, Michael Brown, the head of FEMA, the Federal Emergency and Management Agency, has resigned. On Friday, Brown was removed from direct oversight of recovery efforts in the Gulf. Today, he announced he's leaving the agency altogether, saying it's in the best interest of FEMA and the president. Brown's been under fire about his job qualifications and his background. Replacing him, David Paulson, head of FEMA's Emergency Preparedness Force and former chief of the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department.
Stocks on Wall Street got a boost at the outset of trading from those mergers we mentioned, with the Dow up 13 points and Nasdaq gaining 7. A drop in oil prices and a brokerage upgrade on Citigroup kept the market firm, but last week's big gains kept buyers very cautious, so the stock market closed on a mixed note. Dow Industrial Average was up 4 1/3 points at 10,682.94. Nasdaq Composite gained 7 1/3 points to 2182.83. Standard & Poor's 500, however, lost almost 1 point to 1240.56. Over in the bond market, the 10-year note fell 15 30-seconds to par in 19 30-seconds, lifting the yield to 4.18%.
Our guest tonight says the Dow will close at 11,000 by the end of this year. He's Hugh Johnson, Chairman and Chief Investment Officer of his own money management firm, Johnson Illington. Hi, Hugh.
Hi, Susie.
All right, so despite Katrina and high oil prices, you still think that there's enough fuel in the market to close at the Dow 11,000 number that you're predicting?
Yeah, if you take a look, Susie, at the market's response, and I mean the financial markets collectively to Hurricane Katrina, or take a look at the markets since the middle of April, we've gotten a pretty strong signal. Not only are stocks going up, small companies are outperforming large companies. A lot of things going on in this market that are telling me that the market's headed higher, or investors are very, very comfortable taking risk because they feel the economy and earnings are going to be just fine third quarter and fourth quarter. So things look still very, very good.
As you heard, we just reported a number of mergers in the news today. What is that telling you about the market?
It's extremely positive. You know, what it tells me, particularly when you have Oracle buying Siebel, and I might add that I own Siebel personally. We own it in all our client accounts. But when you have them buying Siebel for cash, that's an influx of new cash into the market. And what the markets are all about is really cash. It's the liquidity that will drive the markets higher. Some of it's coming from corporations, some of it's coming from individuals, and a lot from institutional investors like mutual funds. So there's lots of cash or liquidity there to drive the financial markets higher.
Let's talk a little bit more about oil prices. They have been coming down. They're now around the $63 level. Still, that's at a high level. But let's say that they stay at this level or go higher. What would that do to your stock market scenario?
You know, there's lots of things, Susie, that I worry about. And I do worry about oil prices going to $70 per barrel or even higher. I worry also about housing prices coming down and that impact on consumer spending. So there's real risks in this market. Obviously, I'd have to temper my enthusiasm if I saw oil prices go to $70 or higher. I'd have to temper my enthusiasm if we had a sharp break in housing prices. There is that risk, but right now I think the risk is manageable. But you've got to just simply cross your fingers and watch it on a daily basis.
So what about the investors in our audience who are watching and who own energy stocks? What should they do with them?
Oh boy, that is a big question because, you know, we've had such a move in energy stocks since the beginning of 2004. For example, refiners up 199%. We know when you get big moves like that in the market, you've got to be a little bit cautious. Just instinct tells you that. So what I would say is that if you've got energy stocks or say 15% of your portfolio, that's a big overweight. Cut it back to something like 13. Take a little bit of money off the table and stay overweighted because the trend is still positive. But believe me, that's a very tough question, and that's probably the biggest question on the mind of most professional and individual investors.
We have just a few seconds left. If you have new money, name one stock where you'd recommend people put their money?
Well, if I was at one stock, I would name Medtronic or Aetna in the healthcare area. Healthcare is a good place to be. Utilities are a good place to be. And don't forget energy. When I say stay overweighted, but not as overweighted as you might have been.
Hugh, do you own any of those stocks, you or your firm?
I sure do. I own them personally, own them in all the client portfolios.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Hugh. Always a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure.
We've been speaking with Hugh Johnson of Johnson Illington.
The Senate Judiciary Committee today began confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Chief Justice nominee John Roberts. The panel devoted the day to opening statements from Roberts and lawmakers. Tomorrow and Wednesday, Roberts will be questioned by committee members. As Stephanie Dew reports, business issues will be high on the list of topics to be discussed.
If you would raise your right hand.
Chief Justice nominee John Roberts promised senators he has no agenda and says he will decide every case on its own according to the rule of law.
Judges are like umpires. Umpires don't make the rules, they apply them. The role of an umpire and a judge is critical. They make sure everybody plays by the rules, but it is a limited role. Nobody ever went to a ball game to see the umpire.
That's just the kind of statement that has drawn support from the business community, which endorses Roberts' confirmation.
We want a commitment, a fidelity, if you will, to interpreting law, not trying to make the law.
Senators used opening statements to tell Roberts their concerns about the high court's previous decisions. For example, Ohio Senator Mike DeWine suggested he will question Roberts regarding a recent Supreme Court decision giving states the power to seize private property.
Many Americans worry when they see the court permit the taking of private property for economic development.
Democrats say they will press Roberts on civil rights issues and executive privilege.
People have a right to know that their government is promoting their interests, not the special interests. When it comes to the price of gasoline and the safety of prescription drugs, the air we breathe, and the water we drink, and the food and other products we buy.
With only 2 years on the bench, observers say Roberts' views on business issues are still unclear. But with antitrust, price fixing, and liability cases already on the docket for this fall, if confirmed, Roberts will quickly have a chance to change that. Stephanie Dew, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
Delta Airlines could be flying into bankruptcy late Wednesday or early Thursday. Sources tell Nightly Business Report the troubled carrier was originally planning to file for Chapter 11 tomorrow, but's run into problems negotiating fees with its banks. Industry watchers say a bankruptcy filing is almost inevitable, especially after Hurricane Katrina, which disrupted Delta's flights and jacked up the price of jet fuel. Delta has lost almost $10 billion since 2001, and Paul, it doesn't have enough cash to meet its needs for this year.
Investors took cash off the table on Delta stock today, Susie. It fell to a new all-time low, losing 25 cents to just 85 cents a share. Now let's look at the rest of our stocks in the news tonight. Big board volume leader on 16 million shares. General Electric moving up 45 cents, followed by Time Warner with a 13-cent loss. Citigroup gained 40 cents after Prudential upgraded it from neutral to overweight. Lucent Technology, 3-cent drop. ExxonMobil as oil prices faded, down 68 cents. Nortel Networks gained a nickel. Albertson, which has several suitors, down 24 cents, had a good run up last week. Tyco International was up 14 cents. Pfizer gained a penny, and so did News Corp B stock. That was 10th in volume. Wachovia down 81 cents. As you heard, it's going to acquire Westcorp for stock that's worth about $63 a share. Westcorp today up 23 cents at $61.58, and the deal to acquire WFS Financial for stock worth about $72 a share for WFS, and that stock was up $5.23, closing at $70.15. Then G-Tech, a nice gain of $4.38. The company said it received a non-binding expression of interest to acquire it from a party that it did not name. Montpelier Reinsurance Holdings down $5.43. The company's insurance losses from Katrina are estimated to be in the range of $450 to $675 million. Stifel Financial up $2.89. It's going to buy all of Legg Mason's capital markets business from Citigroup for a sum that was not disclosed as yet. Dycom Industries up $1.38. Starting tomorrow, the company will have a Dutch auction tender offer for up to 9.5 million of its shares. It'll pay between $18.50 and $21 a share. Commerce Bancorp losing $3.01. Company said due to the current interest rate situation, it sees third quarter and fourth quarter earnings each below street estimates by anywhere from 2 to 4 cents a share. Campbell's Soup down a dime. Fourth quarter earnings nicely higher, 23 cents up from 14 last year, 2 cents above the street estimate. But the company says 2006 earnings will be around $1.64, well below the street estimate of $1.81 a share. And Halliburton down $2.50 a share. Wachovia Securities downgraded it from outperform to market perform on a valuation basis. Did the same with Schlumberger, whose stock fell $2 to $83.20 a share. Google topped the active list. Strong Internet Group up $10.65, and Baidu.com up nearly $16. Morgan Stanley today began coverage of the Chinese internet industry with an attractive rating, and at stocks like NetEase.com, another Chinese internet, up $6.89 to $83.75. Siebel Systems up $1.16. As you heard, Oracle will acquire for $10.66 a share in cash. Intel was down 26 cents a share, and that was fifth in dollar volume on NASDAQ. Then Microsoft 3-cent gainer. Cisco System down a dime. Amgen fell $1.14. Oracle was up 21 cents. And of course, you heard it's buying Siebel Systems. Apple Computer, a 9-cent gain. That was 10th in volume. Cytomedics plunging $4.37. That lost 72% of its value today. The company said preliminary results of its gel therapy system to treat diabetic foot ulcers proved to be no better than the standard treatment. And down went the stock in a big way. Those are the stocks in the news tonight. Susie?
Paul, the Walt Disney Company opened its newest theme park today, Hong Kong Disneyland. The $3.5 billion park is Disney's biggest push yet into the Chinese market and one of the most rapidly growing travel destinations in the world. Hong Kong Disneyland is the 11th park in Disney's global empire. And as Hope Go reports, it could be the entree into bigger and better things for Disney in China.
Hong Kong appears to have adopted a new mascot, Mickey Mouse. The Disney icon is everywhere in the territory these days, on posters and street corners, as mass-market collectibles and high-end collector's items. Both the government, which has a majority stake in Hong Kong Disneyland, and the Walt Disney Company itself are hoping this interest will turn into revenue for the first Disney park on Chinese soil.
Tourism watchers expect Hong Kong Disneyland to attract a third of its audience from the territory itself, a third from mainland China, and a third from countries in North and Southeast Asia.
The park has taken extra steps to ensure it won't be found lacking by its Asian audience.
Every environment is different. So I would imagine that a park in Paris is different from the one in Japan and also in Hong Kong. I think there are several examples. One, I think, in laying out the foundations and building the directions, they have to take into consideration of feng shui as an example.
But favorable feng shui has not kept bad publicity for the park at bay. The park was heavily criticized for an early decision to serve shark fin soup. A menu item was later pulled. Park officials were also accused of overestimating the number of people the park can handle during a recent rehearsal day.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Still, Disney executives have every reason to remain optimistic. Hong Kong Disneyland plays a vital role in the company's entry strategy into China.
It is important to have the Hong Kong Disneyland park open because, we're about characters, we're about storytelling, and this park definitely will help us to do that. This is what we say all the time, character lives and story comes alive in the park.
Hong Kong Disneyland is also perceived by international media to be a scaled-down version of a bigger facility, which senior Disney executives have already said will be built in the Chinese port city of Shanghai within the next decade.
Now, we have to reach agreement with the Shanghai government. The park, probably won't be open beyond, before 2010. And I would say that, we have continuous dialogue with the government on various initiatives that we have, including our television business, our movie business, our consumer business, and park is basically one of them.
But even if a Shanghai park were to come online by 2010, analysts believe Hong Kong Disneyland will continue to attract its share of visitors.
If a new park is open in Shanghai tomorrow, I'm sure that will definitely negatively affect Hong Kong Disneyland. But in the long run, China is a big country with 1.3 billion people. So it's a large enough country which can sustain perhaps more than 2, even more 3 parks.
The Hong Kong government, which has thus far invested $2.88 billion into the project, has high hopes people will flock to the new park. Hope Go Nightly Business Report, Hong Kong.
Tomorrow, from airlines to cell phones to music, Richard Branson's certainly not a virgin in business anymore.
Here's a look at what's happening tomorrow. On the economic calendar, producer prices for August are coming out. Also tomorrow, Best Buy and Kroger are scheduled to report earnings. Like most of us, tonight's commentator has been watching the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina unfold in the Gulf Coast region. She says coping with the storm can teach us a lesson. Here's Alice Rivlin, economist at the Brookings Institution and former vice chair of the Federal Reserve.
Water is receding in New Orleans, and rebuilding shattered lives has begun. There will be hearings and investigations, finger-pointing, and one can hope, constructive lessons for the future. But will the disaster in New Orleans shock other local leaders into aggressive action to ensure they function effectively in disaster? Or will they take refuge in denial? Will they say our city is not New Orleans? We are on higher ground. We don't have levees or a legacy of racism. We would do better. But New Orleans is not unique. Any city could be hit by a calamity, a nuclear bomb, poison gas, pandemic disease, requiring rapid action to contain and mitigate. All cities have concentrations of poor, disabled, and elderly residents who cannot reach safety unaided. Vulnerable citizens will always be left behind unless the more fortunate mobilize to protect them. Public pressure must force hospitals, nursing homes, daycare centers, social service organizations, and local officials to demonstrate real disaster plans ready for execution. The public will have to shout, show us that you have plans and the resources to carry them out. Show us that you can protect the vulnerable people in your care. Who is in charge, and exactly what are they and we supposed to do? Otherwise, when disaster strikes, we all live in New Orleans. I'm Alice Rivlin.
Recapping today's market action, a fairly quiet day of trading. The Dow gained 4 points while the Nasdaq Composite closed up 7. To learn more about the stories in tonight's broadcast, go to nbr.com.
And that's Nightly Business Report from Monday, September 12th. I'm Susie Garib. Good night, everyone, and good night to you, Paul.
Good night, Susie. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
Nightly Business Report is made possible by Franklin Templeton Investments, providing a unique perspective through the specialized investment expertise of Franklin Templeton Mutual Series and Fiduciary Trust. Franklin Templeton Investments, gain from our perspective.
Don't let your nest egg get away from you. Objective financial advice can help. A.G. Edwards, for 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Stay with OPB. The News Hour with Jim Lehrer is next.
For more information about investing, you may order Nightly Business Report's home video, the NBR Guide to Stock Market Strategies, by calling 1-800-535-5864. This program is available in either the VHS or DVD formats.
We are PBS.
Funding for local broadcast of Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following. SAFE Corporation, preventing workplace injuries and helping Oregon employers manage the cost of workers' compensation insurance. SAFE, on the job for Oregon.
The Dead Live On in the classic Grateful Dead movie. The farewell concerts were shot over 30 years ago and put together by Jerry Garcia, creating the ultimate Deadhead film. Now, digitally restored, it's like being there